Batman. I prefer the real Batman. I said the real Batman. Perfection. Okay, people, today let's take a quick look at the Queen Studios Inart 1/12 Dark Knight Rises Batman. Inart reached out and asked if I wanted to take a look at one of their Batmans, and I was like, hell yeah. Of course, I want to take it for a test drive. And even though they said Dark Knight Rises in the initial email, I just went back and checked. For some reason, I had it in my head that they were sending a Batman from one of the Arkham games, which doesn't break my heart. I'm just saying, that was my thought process up to the point where I opened the shipping carton. And, taking a look at that box, there's not a lot going on here, but that's also very Batman-y. There's the logo, Batman, The Dark Knight Rises, Inart 1/12 collectible figure, along with Queen Studios and Inart 1/12. And I guess that's the name they landed on for their 1/12 scale line, which makes sense because their Inart 1/6 line is known. It's out there. People go, oh, Inart, they do this, this, and this. Why not just call it 1/12 and start this new line under that? Last year they were using, I think, Stone Row, and then since then I've heard more Fig, but here we are. On the side, Dark Knight Trilogy, and this is the deluxe version, which at this point I have no clue what that means. I haven't seen the figure. I haven't seen anything. On the back, there's credits. On the other side, the Dark Knight Trilogy. On the top, Queen Studios, Inart 1/12. On the bottom, more credits, barcode. Let's get this open, see what's going on here. Because your first look is going to be my first look. Now, don't take me saying there's no window or anything as bad. It's an import. I don't know how many store shelves this is going to hit. So, what are... Oh... There's the dreaded plastic wrap. Also, it adds to the mystique of Batman himself, I guess. What I'm saying is the packaging doesn't matter. It's what's inside that counts. As it is in life, also it shall be with action figures. Yes, there is another tray underneath with some foam. Do not eat. I believe this is, yes, that's a cape. Some clasps up top, and I already looked here. I think that is magnetic. Shows weapons going in hands. Chest armor is magnetically attached to the body. Table of contents. I don't see that very often. Some highlights of articulation and how to maneuver. Swapping out face plates and heads. Interchangeable hands. How to use the stand. The clamp can be wrapped around the torso. And it even has a diagram of Batman standing on the stand. Can I just say, I love matte black. This looks like the unmasked head. I'm gonna save that for later in, just to have more surprises on the way. Whoa, look at this base again with the matte black and that shiny chromed out logo on the front. On the bottom, there's all the information. I thought for a second, because of the thickness, that it was gonna have some kind of storage for accessories. That would have been cool, but no, it's just tall. There is the stand. Well, let's do the big reveal of the figure itself. Another cover. Have some protective plastics around the shoulders to keep the shoulder pads from rubbing, I guess. And then the belt. Holy shit. All right, this thing is crazy. It's not without its hiccups, but initial reaction right out of the pack. Well, you saw it just a minute ago. Holy shit. First up, I don't think you're going to get a better sculpt than this. I've got the Mafex. I've got the SH Figuarts. I think it was Mattel that made the retail store line. This blows them all out of the water. Look at the crisp, clean lines on the costume. And yes, I know what that torso looks like. We will get to that. We will get to that. Have these grooves and seams and such running down the legs to the boot that looks leathery. And that's another thing about this figure. The different shades of black and grays. But not only that, the different sheens. This is a lighter color. Then you get to the flat black. You get to some matte. You get to some carbon fiber looking parts in places. It just, oh, and don't forget about the gold. That stands out nicely. Maybe it's that extra texture to the boots that make it stand out, but it makes it look very leathery because it's sculpted to look like leather. I know that's just talking in circles, but I can't help myself. Look at them. It also has a little bit of wrinkles showing. And again, that sets it apart from the rest of the costume because even though you can see maybe the undersuit in parts, it's mostly about the smoothness and the hard angles, and, well, I guess the seams of the uniform itself, the armor parts. It even has the posture. Or, well, you can straighten it out if you want to. The articulation is there. I don't guess I've even ever noticed this detail on a lot of the other figures. These humps on the shoulder blades. Oh man, the shoulder pads are just delicious. It has a double row of the arm blades on the back of the forearm, and these are hard plastic. They are kind of sharp. Same thing for the ears up on top. They're not super sharp. They're not just going to stab you willy-nilly, but if you get rowdy with them, they may get under the skin a little bit. And it's not just coppery gold on the belt, there's silver poking through, running across, very intricate paintwork going on. Pouch on the side, moving around to the back, bigger pouch in the back. Oh man, it's just pretty. This flesh has a slight translucency to it. It makes it feel realistic. It gives it a lifelike quality. And then, like I said, those eyes peering out, there's a shininess to them that really stands out against the matte black. From some distances and angles, you'd think it's a movie still, or it's somebody in a costume if it wasn't for my big hands behind it. I'm not a toy. Almost hate calling it a toy, even though it is. It's an action figure. It's a toy, but it's a very high quality toy. I don't think I've ever seen a quadruple torso. You have the pecs, and then there is a cut right here for each section of the abs. I had to get quotes in there. So there's the pec pieces that are on top of this section running right here that you can see moving. And then this is a separate piece where it goes into the waist part. But that also moves behind the belt. So go to crunch and you get a little more movement. Now each section doesn't move that far, but because there's 4 of them, you can get what you would assume somebody in a suit like this would get. I know, I wanted to crunch all the way forward too, or tilt all the way to the side, but it gives it a lifelike feel because it doesn't break up as it's bending forward. I forgot to point out these spine parts. See how it just extends out and comes back together? Oh, that's where one of those hiccups that I mentioned comes in. As you're doing that, the belt does like to ride up onto this bottom piece, and you can see how it's engineered with the gap in order to have some movement down there. What you got to do after some heavy posing is bring the belt down. It becomes mostly seamless again. But raising the belt up again, we get a better look at the leg assembly. I think it's this cover piece that kind of flips up and down. There's the middle section that attaches to this hinge, or this piece that comes out to the leg to allow hinge. Even though it goes out, it doesn't break the silhouette. But then below that is the leg section attached to a swivel. And that's not even mentioning that there is a little up and down drop. I think that, yeah, see how that moves? That is also on a ball joint, a hinge, something. My camera doesn't even want to focus. It's so impressed. Once again, zoop. Oh, the shoulder pads also do a good job of staying flush because those are on a double hinge. So you can bring it out like that away from the arm in order to have articulation. And there is a slight butterfly joint in there. It goes forward and back, up and down a bit. So you get into the pose you want and then bring that down. The rest is pretty much standard articulation, but they did their damnedest in order to hide it. Look at that double elbow with the texture sculpted onto the inner parts. Same thing on the back of the knee. And I've noticed that for some reason the boot is a separate piece that doesn't really rotate. Like this is a cover that goes down. In fact, is that what it is? Very hard to tell up in there. So since we just talked about a bunch of the joints and their ranges, let's go over articulation, which is essentially going through the joints and their ranges. I haven't done this yet. Uh-oh. I still haven't unmasked the unmasked head, but yes, there's a neck there, so that's where it swaps. Seems to be a dumbbell joint at the top of the neck going up into the skull, and then a ball joint at the bottom going down into the body. Does get some good up and some good down. So much ding dang tilt. Selena. Bane. Again, the shoulder pad is on a double hinge, flips out of the way in order to look at the butterfly joint, goes back, goes forward. Well, I say butterfly, it's more of a dumbbell maybe because there's also some up and some down. That may be a cover piece. But then there's a pin coming out to the arm, rotates around, and then a hinge that goes up to there. I just discovered this. There is a bicep swivel at that armor break. So it's very nicely hidden. Double elbow comes up that far, even with a gauntlet and stuff. And on top of that, it's sculpted to not gap up on the ends. Swivel hinge swivel at the wrist, so you can turn it, go in and out, but you can also take that and rotate it to where it goes side to side, up and down, wherever you want that hand to go. We talked about the torso. Altogether, it gets this much crunch, this much arc back, even arcing back. There's no gaps. I am so impressed with that. Tilt to one side, tilt to the other, and there's another hiccup. If you get too far like this, the belt can get jammed in between the pieces because of that gap. So you got to kind of get the belt up onto that piece again in order to rotate it, tilt it the other way. Rotation, well, hell, there's rotation there and there and there. So again, and I know I keep stressing this, it's made to look natural. So if you turn the torso, each part turns to twist more than turn. We talked about the hip assembly, but since I've been moving it around more, I do believe the drop down that I talked about is more of a rock. It rocks this way and rocks up. Well, it does give it a little bit of drop. Kick this far, kick back, kick out. All while making it look like the costume is stretching along with it. Yes, we're up close. We can see the cuts and the joints, but look at that. Swivel at the thigh. Double knee stops right there because the boot runs into the upper leg. Hey, that is still great. And not to keep harping on it, but the knee is sculpted to stay all the way in the upper leg and the lower leg, so there's no gaps. Hell, it even has armor sculpt to keep it from getting boring. The upper boot feels like a separate piece. Oh, you know what? You can get a little twist out of it. The ankle is like the wrist, a swivel hinge swivel. It goes side to side at the top, hinges back, about there, forward, front facing pin for rocker, and then a toe joint that goes up that far. And back in neutral position. It's such a solid looking figure. You're moving the joints around and you start to see how they work, but then like you pop the arm up like that, bring it back down. All you have to do is work the abs until the belt comes up. All you got to do is what I'm saying is this is one hell of a figure, and we haven't even got to accessories. For hands, there are a pair of fists, and I showed it a minute ago, but the hands come off so nice. That's because there's a slight rubberiness. Putting on the next pair, not a problem whatsoever. There are two splayed out hands, two relaxed hands. There is a batarang holding hand. So of course there's batarangs, and look at that. The sheen of it, the shininess, and a little sculpt. The other side is flat though. Two large and two smaller ones. With one side being flat, they're kind of painted. He has to get off flat surfaces. You can either put it like this into the palm, or you can put it in between the fingers. So dang good. Then there's a few trigger finger options. There's the smaller grip, and I do believe that's for the sticky bomb gun. The only thing holding it together though are these two bars right here. So there is a slight flex to it, but again, rubbery hands wasn't a problem to get this grip in. Look at that. Ooh. I don't believe it folds down or pumps. There's this left holding the weight of the weapon hand, and that works with two other trigger finger hands. There's this one that is more angled up and down. I believe that goes to the EMP rifle with its flat black finish looking all classy. And then is that, oh yeah, that's an embedded translucent bluish piece in the end. Good grief, not a problem at all to get that into the shoulder and hold it realistically. Finally, there's this trigger finger hand that is angled a bit. I think that's for the grapple gun, and again, just a beautiful sculpt with that coppery gold color. It just works. I guess I said the left holding the weight of the weapon hand works with both trigger fingers, but I guess you can have it like this. Oops, sorry. Batman! But then there's alternate faceplate options, and I'm looking, there's not a huge difference here. I think one may be frownier than the other, which is not a huge difference from the one that came on it in the package. There's nowhere to get, oh, okay. You just have to keep prying a little bit at the bottom, and then, and here's all three of them side by side, looking like I just walked into a sex shop. Slight changes to the lips, maybe? I can't even tell you which one I just pulled off. I think it was this one. I could be wrong. That one seems like the mouth is a little far down, like it has more upper lip or something. About this one. Now that I'm looking too close, this feels very Batman Begins, where the cowl looked odd around his mouth. I think this one was on it out of the package. I don't know why, but I like this one best. Then let's take a look at this. And okay. Just like I figured, this is damn fantastic too. Again, slight translucency to the skin, the glossiness of the eyes making them look wet. But what I like even more is the color gradients, the red to the nose, and then a slight flushness to the cheeks. Same thing at the ear. It just really ups the realistic feel. Like I stumbled across a minute ago, it swaps at the bottom of the neck. So popping that on, not bad, no heat required. Oh man, that's tasty. Popping the unmasked head back off, I realized there's no articulation at the upper neck. Is just one big piece, which is okay. I'm not going to be using this for any battles or anything. Well, there is Bane, huh? If I need to back down the driveway, I'll put the helmet head on. We've been dancing around the last crucial element this whole review, and that's the cape. I completely forgot that the instructions pointed out that the chest piece is magnetic. It's easy to overlook. Because of the sculpt and everything, you can't even tell that that's a separate piece. Yep, it comes right off. Then at the top of the cape, there are these clasps that are kind of hook-like. Doesn't really snap down in there, but once it grabs, it seems to want to stay in there. And then we'll do this, and oh man, that is so simple but so effective. And there you go, that completes the look. That is icing on the cake. There's no wire to it, it just wants to drape, but it is layered. You can bring it out over the shoulder if you want. Same thing with this side, bringing it around. But it does kind of want to hook up just because it's cloth. You just flip it back, it goes right back. Once again, it doesn't break the silhouette. It just neck, shoulders, shoulder pad, arm. You can kind of get it out and about. You're not going to get it into full flared out range. That may be an add-on later or something. I can do this. Oh. So natural, fairly secure. It's not just popping off. One thing about posing it around with the cape on, it does every now and then get up under the shoulder pad, and you're kind of getting here and you get the pose and you're trying to get the shoulder pad down and the cape out where you want it, and it likes to fight each other. It's not a huge deal. I'm just pointing out something that may happen while you're messing around with it. Size-wise, this Batman stands at about 6 1/8, maybe 6 3/16 to the top of the actual head. It's slightly tall for Christian Bale, but not bad for 1/12 scale. Because it's actually slightly shorter than the Mafex Dark Knight Rises Batman and the SH Figuarts either Dark Knight or Dark Knight Rises Batman. I think it has the better proportions, and like I was talking about with the cape, it drapes much better than the wired versions of the other two. I think there's a clear winner here. Here he is alongside the Mafex Bane and the Mafex Catwoman. This works. But hey, Inart, I definitely want your version of Bane and Selina. And Joker. Oh, I just thought about that. Because here's a third-party Joker I've been rocking on the shelf for a while, but as you can see, it is slightly large. It's absolutely amazing looking, but it is large. As far as scaling with other lines, here is the Hasbro Marvel Legends Vulcan and the Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Series Commando Snake Eyes. Here's the Jada Toys Ultra Street Fighter 2 Ryu and the Fresh Monkey Fiction Naughty or Nice Santa. But it's not going to scale with the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse line. That's obviously 7-inch. This is 1/12. At the end of the day, I was going to pose it all up for this final shot, and then I realized I don't have to. It looks badass just standing there. Don't get me wrong, it can pose up to the best of its ability. Inart got all the motion a person wearing a suit like this would get, while doing their damnedest to hide each and every joint. So it still has to work within the limitations of being a plastic action figure. It's not a bare skeleton under a rubber suit. It is not Amazing Yamaguchi where the joints get super crazy range but gap up in places. This is the perfect marriage of both. It's a balance between posable and looking like a real person in 6-inch scale. So if you want super dynamic poses, well, there's options for that out there. In fact, at this point, before I got this, before I realized they were even making one, I didn't really feel the need for another Dark Knight Rises Batman or even another Nolan Trilogy Batman. We've been seeing those for quite a few years now from quite a few different companies. But Inart just rolled in and went, here you go. You do need another one. It feels very premium, but it's also a toy that I can just grab and just go to town on because I don't feel like I'm going to break it. How about that? I mean, that was just... But a lot of it's also going to depend on price, because as I'm recording this, I do not know the MSRP. Okay, future Robo cutting in here. Coming back around because one, I forgot to shoot comparison shots with non-Batman and Batman-related characters. But more importantly, Inart sent an email, a follow-up, giving the date and the dollar amount. Batman will go up for pre-order March 28th with a cost of $51 for the standard, that's without the unmasked head and the base, and then $69 for the deluxe, which is everything you saw in this overview. That seems crazy. Before I knew that, because of the quality of this, I thought for sure it was going to be closer to $100. And that may very well be after shipping and such, because they also go on to list regions where they can sell direct, and North America is not on there. In fact, they make sure to say North America is omitted from that list. So I'm guessing this is going to be up for pre-order on the usual import sites like Ami or HLJ, or even domestic sites, Big Bad Toy Store and such. But they will have to import it themselves. So there's going to be added cost to that. The original ending of this video had me going through the unknowingness that when the price was announced, you'd have to go by your own budget and your own personal preferences, see if it's worth it to you. But, man, $51 or $69 for this seems totally worth it. But that's my opinion. And that's all I can go by. That's all I can tell you. What I think. It's up to you to go through the rest of this video, to take a gander at the articulation and the accessories and everything, and see if it's worth it to you. Either way, we'll figure it out as we go, like we always do. Bye.